Senator. Thank you for joining us. And since you're the first candidate, I just want to reiterate to everyone that the questions were put together based on submissions. They're altered questions from our mayoral forum. They were done by Louisa, myself, and Ed Coster, who's our president. We have not shared the questions with any candidate or any campaign in advance. So they are fair to everyone. And if anything, Senator, you have our respect because you are the first one on. So the other ones could be watching you and they don't even know. Okay. We're going to give you a quick minute to introduce yourself to the candidate, to the people who are on the chat right now.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, I want to thank Chippewa for allowing me to participate today. Thank you, John, great district leader. So we're in a situation right now where the Bronx is in need of really transformative changes and transformative leadership. It doesn't matter how much money we put into the county, we're still last in all the major metrics: healthcare, unemployment, graduation rate. Now, I want to bring a concept, something called a 15-minute city to the Bronx, which will revolutionize this county in a way that you have not seen. The 15-minute city is being adopted by places like Paris and Melbourne. What that is that you will have a city where you can obtain everything: healthcare services, jobs, food, all within a 15-minute radius of where you live. That's going to cut down emissions. That's going to make our food system better. Our infrastructure has to be changed somewhat to favor pedestrians and bikers. But guess what? The infrastructure for that is a lot cheaper than infrastructure for roads. So you need someone to incorporate really revolutionary changes so that we're no longer last in all these healthcare metrics. Now, I've said time and again during my debates, I am confident that I have the best plan. I am the most prolific legislator of all the candidates here. I have passed the most progressive legislation, including the DREAM Act and the Green Light Bill. That demonstrates my ability to work across with everyone and pass really difficult legislation that we couldn't pass over the years. But this is the pledge, and this is the challenge that I've made my opponents, that I've asked my opponents to take. I am confident in my ability to get us above the 80% graduation rate. I am confident in my ability to get these things done. And I've asked my opponents, will you take the pledge as I have, that if I can't get it done, my first term is over, I won't run for re-election. None of them have taken that pledge, and that's it, because I believe they're not as confident in their ability to get it done as I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for that introduction. And just you hear, Louisa, that means time, and we will give you more time at the end here.
Sure.
The first question is, many communities in the 82nd district, such as Co-op City, Country Club, City Island, and Throgsneck, are considered transit deserts. Our current Bronx Borough President has been the lead advocate for the Metro North stations coming to the Bronx, including Morris Park and Co-op City. If you are elected Borough President, and this kind of touches on what you were saying earlier, what will your transportation priorities be, and what will be your plan to achieve them? And then as a sub-question, do you support expanding ferry service and the tri-borough line proposals?
Well, my transportation system will always have the level of pollution and accessibility that it brings to the county. Any transportation plan that's going to bring more carcinogens into our community is something that I will outright reject. Now, I already talked about the 15-minute city. That can take away a lot of the problems that we have in terms of transportation deserts, and a lot of the problems that we have with emissions. The parking lots that you see in the Cross Bronx Expressway, all they do is emit carcinogens into the atmosphere. So we have to cut on that. Now, the 15-minute city that I want to bring to the Bronx will emphasize bike lanes, will get us more pedestrian traffic and more mass transportation. Because in order for us to bring down the pollution rate, to bring down some of the healthcare metrics that we have in this county, we have to have a sensible transportation system. It has to rely on things that'll bring us cleaner air, that'll bring us healthier outcomes in terms of individuals. That's why we have to start emphasizing looking beyond what we're doing now. That's why we have to start emphasizing bike lanes and pedestrian traffic. Think of people as resources and not put them in a position that if they have to get their resources, they have to go travel far away. If you live in a 15-minute city that I will bring to the Bronx, guess what? You can get everything within 15 minutes. You don't need as much mass transportation. And I know that I can get that done because I've seen cities that are getting it done, and it is the perfect medicine for this county.
Okay, thank you, Senator. So the second question here is, a good portion of our region is defined by city planning as a, quote, lower density growth management area, which includes special zoning provisions to control parking requirements, yard space, and other protections. Several communities, including Throgsneck, Country Club, and City Island, have fought for decades to be downsized. So do you agree or disagree with lower density growth management areas and zoning? And how do you envision the future of zoning and planning for communities with a mix of 1 and 2 family homes and apartment buildings similar to this region of the Bronx? And then as the sub question, if a developer seeks a variance or rezoning and has donated to your campaign, will you refund the donation so there is no appearance of conflict?
John, I can answer the first one immediately. The answer is 100% yes. I am, as a practicing attorney for many years, I am familiar with the variance process, the zoning process. I think I have more experience than any other candidate with respect to ULURP processes because I've done work as a private attorney in that field. But certainly, there is no ethical way that you can accept a contribution from anyone that's going before the board for a variance. That is just unethical. And even if you're doing it for all the right reasons, it's just not the way to be an elected official representing the people. You have to separate yourself. Now, John, what was your second question? Because you jumped into the first one.
Sorry about that. The first question is, do you agree with downzoning and lower density growth management areas?
Well, again, lower density growth management is good for some areas. It's not as good for other areas. Of course, within this notion, and I keep talking about it, of the 15-minute city, all these things are factored in a way that whatever growth you have, whatever zoning requirements you have to factor in how we can make resources available to our community, how we have access. We have to stress access into these resources as opposed to getting somewhere faster. And so whatever zoning I prefer has to have in mind that it's going to lower the pollution rate in the county. It's going to bring more jobs to the county because that's important. It's going to increase our healthcare metrics because we have the worst in the entire state of New York. So it's not easy to say, do I favor or do not favor? I know in some communities they prefer lower density, but I think with the 15-minute city and my plan to restructure the entire county of the Bronx, we can create zoning that'll make everybody happy because everyone will be able to access things within 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Third question here is, as Borough President, you will have access to a capital budget to direct funds, and you will also be, directing the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation to assist small businesses. So can you tell us any specific projects or initiatives in our region that you would be interested in funding? So that's Throckneck Country Club, City Island, Westchester Square, parts of Morris Park, or Pelham Bay.
Well, listen, as the next borough president, I want to fund whatever's going to bring more economic development into not just that area, but the entire county of the Bronx. And so with me, you will get someone who will look to use their capital funding in areas where you need certain kinds of development, with keeping in mind that anything that you do with that capital funding has to be a basis for getting more jobs for people to live in the county. If you're going to have developers come here, it troubles me. Every time I see development in this county, I see construction workers that live in New Jersey or upstate that have no roots in this county. And so people that live here are not benefiting from this kind of economic development. And so I will use the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation for many things. But one of the most important things is job growth. You have to take care of our small businesses. Now, look, I just voted in the state budget to bring in $800 million to small businesses, which are and is the backbone of our economy. They hire more people than any other segment in our industries. So we have to make sure that our small businesses are taken care of. We allocated $200 million to help entrepreneurs to prepare to get access to some of the grants and loans that we're going to provide both at the state level and the federal level. Because if you see what's happened, the money has been there for some of these businesses, but they don't have the right accounting records, tax records. So as a result, less than 4% of them were able to access some of the monies that were given to the federal government. But now we in the state level, for those who couldn't benefit from federal relief, we at the state level set aside $800 million and are giving monies to entrepreneur assistance programs, either to small business or any other program that we have in the city level. It could be EDC, to help people get their record straight so they can access these funds, these grants, and get the economy going again. That's what we have to do. We have to take care of small businesses, and the Overall Economic Development Company can use part of its capital funds. You have to be crafty, but I'd say use it for that way. And also I would use it to work on our healthcare metrics.
Well, you're going to like the next question then, Senator.
Is it a vegan question?
It's a healthcare question. So it leads in very well to what we've been talking about here. The Bronx continues to suffer with bad health outcomes, and while the current borough president, Ruben Diaz Jr., has made a valiant effort with the Not 62 initiative, we still rank towards the bottom of health outcomes. So what is your plan to address these issues, and how will it be different from what has already been undertaken?
Yeah, listen, I give the current borough president, past borough presidents, credit for attempting to get us out of the bottom. We are the worst. We're 62 out of 62. But more has to be done, because the Not 62 hashtag just infuriates me, because we still have it. And there's no reason for us to have it, because we have the ability to get us out of the bottom. Now, a lot of the issues that we have with healthcare in the Bronx have to do with social drivers. You're not going to get adequate healthcare unless you fix some of the major problems that we have in this county. It has to do mostly with poverty and education and housing. If you look at our healthcare metrics, those are three areas where we lack severely sufficient quality for our constituents that are living in impoverished areas. And as a result, you see those three impacting overall healthcare. So we have to start with economic development, so people have jobs, can get affordable housing, and can educate their kids in a way that's proper. So let's work on those social metrics, because we can put money in all different ways, but unless we work to improve those social metrics, we're not going to succeed. But there are other things that we're working on. Look, I think we should pass the New York Health Act, and I would advocate and scream from the bleachers the Healthcare Act that's from another colleague of ours in the Bronx, Senator Gustavo Rivera. But look, we have some tools right now that we're not using that I think can also revolutionize, for example, Medicaid. We now have a new approach called value-based payment. That can revolutionize the healthcare system in the county. Why? Well, value-based payment, the system is that doctors will be paid additional funding based on the healthcare outcomes of their patients. So rather than being paid by patient, the doctor will get paid based on how they improve the quality of care of their patients. So the better care, the better health that their patients have, the higher the earning for these doctors. That's a simple process that can work, and it has to change because the current system is not working.
Thank you, Senator. And I appreciate you keeping towards time here. This is the final question of the standard questions that every candidate's getting. And it's one of the responsibilities of the borough president is to appoint members of the local community board. How will you review existing members for reapportionment? And what policies will you implement so that these boards are truly reflective of the communities they are supposed to serve?
Sure. Well, one of the policies that I want to bring is to diversify the community boards. There are a lot of community boards that really don't represent the community that they're situated in terms of membership. So we have to diversify that. We have to have members of the LGBT community. I'd like to have individuals under the age of, or at least of the age of 16 to participate as board members. But here's something that I think separates me from the rest of the candidates. I want to democratize the board system more. I want to make it almost an electoral process so that people are not beholden to the city council person or even myself as the next borough president. I want people to make independent choices about the kinds of developments that they want. And so, even though the borough president has advisory power, can use the power of the borough president pulpit with the Euler process, I want people that are on the community boards to decide what kind of development that they want. That shouldn't be left in the hands of the local city councilmen. Us as elected officials, the city councilman, the borough president, we have the resources to influence what we think is appropriate development for the county. But that should be independent and that should be democratized to the fullest extent. And I will be working to democratize the community boards as much as possible.
Great. Since we have like a minute left, we did get a question from Lou Goldstein, so I'm going to read it. And it's a pretty easy yes or no question. Will you commit to continue the LGBTQI events initiatives started by Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr.? Will you commit to celebrations and raising the pride flag at Borough Hall?
Not only will I commit, but I will commit to make it bigger and better and louder.
There we go. Okay. Senator, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's your website?
They can go to, hold on one second. Sepulveda 2021. Mm-hmm. And you can see it right behind me. Or they can call us at 347-582-8173. We have a lot of information with our plan for the county that elaborates more on what some of the things that I've been talking about on our website. Go look at it, and you'll see that you'll have in me the best prepared, the most progressive pro-choice candidate running for borough president.
Thank you very much, Senator, for your time tonight.
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Mr. Ravello, are you on?
Can you guys hear me?
We can. I think Lou's got to make you a co-host so people can see you.
Let me see.
Yes, I just did it. Oh, here we go.
Okay. I'm going to mute myself.
Hi, sir. How are you today?
How are you? Thank you.
Good, thanks. Mr. Ravello, if you can take the first minute just to introduce yourself, and then we'll go into the questions.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I came to the Bronx from the Dominican Republic when I was 16 years old. I am the American story. My mother brought me here on a student visa and I overstayed. As an undocumented teenager, I did not have many options. So I worked in a grocery store and I pumped gas. I worked in the local supermarket. I am proud to say that I live the American dream. As an immigrant from the Dominican Republic, I understand the dreams and aspirations of all those who came to this country for a better life and found one. I decided to devote my life to its service, first in the U.S. Navy, where I served in the Gulf War and then for 25 years in the New York City Police Department, where I recently retired as a lieutenant. I consider my desire to become Bronx Borough President a continuation of my public service. For more than 40 years, the Bronx is the poorest county, the poorest borough in New York State. The districts where these elected officials who today want to run for Bronx Borough President have a 185% poverty level. It's time to change the new leaders. It's time to change and have new voices here in the Bronx. So I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let's get started. Again,
Yes,
you'll
ma'am.
have 2 minutes to respond. John will be keeping the timer, but let's get started. So many communities of the 82nd Assembly District, such as Co-op City, Country Club, City Island, and Throgs Neck, are considered transit deserts. Our current Bronx Borough President has been the lead advocate for the Metro North stations coming to the Bronx, including the ones in Morris Park and Co-op City. If you are elected Borough President, what will be your transportation priorities and what is your plan to achieve them? Also, do you support expanding the ferry service and the Tri-Borough Line proposals?
Yes, well, the answer to the last is a simple yes. I support those two initiatives. As far as the Metro North, I live in Morris Park, so I'm part of that word that's considered a transient hub, if you will. I'm looking forward to expanding. I commend the Bronx Borough President, the current one, in pushing for those Metro North stations. I think it would help. One of the things that I would like to improve, obviously, keeping our green initiative intact, is the transportation between East and West, and improving the MTA services in New York. That would be my priority. East and West, a lot of people complain that it takes a lot of time, and there is only very few bus services that run East and West. I think the main one is in East Tremont. I would look forward to seeing how I can improve those.
Great, thank you. Our second one, it's a long one. There's 3 questions. So if you need me to repeat, just let me know. A good portion of our region is defined by city planning as a lower density growth management areas, also known as LDGMA, which includes special zoning provisions to control parking requirements, yard space, and other protections. Several communities, including Throgs Neck, Country Club, and City Island, have fought for decades to be downzoned. 1, do you agree or disagree with LDGMA downzoning? 2, how do you envision the future of zoning and planning for communities with a mix of 1 to 2 family homes and apartment buildings, similar to this region of the Bronx? And 3, if a developer seeks a variance or rezoning and has donated to your campaign, will you refund the donation so there's no appearance of a conflict?
Okay, so basically, to your first point, many Bronxites like myself, we put our life savings into a home, whether it's Starks Neck, Morris Park, where I live, and there's a reason why we put our money there and buy a home. We want to be close to our families, and we don't want now the rules being changed on us halfway through our mortgage type. So 15 years, and now all of a sudden they're going to put a building across the street. I think the communities should have a say in variances and how they're going to rezone. So I agree with the first part of your question. I'm sorry, the second part of your question was what?
So it is, how do you envision the future of zoning and planning for communities with a mix of?
Yes. So I live in Morris Park Avenue. You're by Victor Street between Vanessa and Morris Park on Victor. All right, so there, I live in that mixture. I believe that local folks should have a say in what happens into their community. I don't like I said in the beginning, I don't like the rules change halfway through, after I committed a lifetime to a house. We're losing a lot of middle class. They're moving upstate because the changes in our zoning, and developers are, some people feel that our neighborhoods are being changed. So I would like to have more input. Community boards, that's what they're there for. And as a Bronx Borough President, I would listen to them when it comes to rezoning. And it's a simple no. I won't accept money from developers, and if I did, I would definitely reimburse them.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is, as Borough President, you will have access to a capital budget to direct funds and the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation to assist small businesses. Can you tell us any specific projects or initiatives in our region you are interested in funding? Yes,
again, I am a big advocate for after school. As a former police officer, I saw what the policies of Major Bloomberg did to our kids after he eliminated a lot of the after-school programs that we had. So a lot of the money's coming in.
It appears we lost Mr. Ravello. If you can hear us, it seems like you're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Mr. Ravello?
I guess we'll give him a quick minute to figure it out. Looks like we lost him entirely, but he's still got another 5 minutes. So if he comes back, we will afford him the opportunity to pick up where he left off. He was only a minute into his time before technical difficulties occurred there.
Absolutely. And again, if anyone has any questions for the candidates who are joining us tonight, please submit them. If we do have time, we'll ask them. Obviously, we can't guarantee it. But I guess this is a good time just to acknowledge people who are in attendance. First, Joe McManus, who is the president of Liberty Democratic Association and a state committeeman. But at this point, Mr. Ravello's back. Hi, sir.
Yes, I'm sorry. We're at the mercy of the internet.
No, don't worry. Don't worry about it. It happens. I'm getting nervous. Are you still there? Okay, here we go. We got you. Okay. We got you. No. So John just said you have 1 minute left to your answer. So please continue. If you like, I could restate the question.
Okay, no, I was about to talk about the Bronx Overall Economic Corporation, and basically what I would use them to issue low low interest loans and hopefully give grants to our businesses. If you walk around Fordham Road, Burnside, you walk around Third Avenue, we have a lot of businesses that close. They need to have access to capital. So that's going to be one of my first things. I'm going to create a Bronx Borough President on wheels, where I'm going to drive around throughout the whole Bronx and talk to businesses and people that want to have access to start a business. That's going to be one of my first priorities.
Thank you. Our fourth question is, the Bronx continues to suffer with bad health outcomes, and while the current Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr., has made a valiant effort through the #Not62 initiative, we continue to rank at the bottom of health outcomes. What is your plan to address these issues, and how is it different from what has been undertaken before?
Well, as the father of a kid that grew up asthmatic, this is very near and dear to my heart. We have to do something about the Cross Bronx and the emissions that it spills out. So I commend, like I said, Ruben Diaz. The Not 62 initiative has been in place for 10 years, believe it or not. And it's unfortunate because it's not his fault. He hasn't found equal partners at the local and state levels. And, that's what the difference that I would do. I would push and call out, if you will, some of our local and state partners that keep saying that they're going to do something. And let's now tackle the issue. If we don't get the emissions that go in the Cross Bronx and the Bruckner, if we don't get them under control, we're still going to have unfavorable health outcomes. And obviously education through our school system. I love the initiative of our former First Lady, Michelle Obama. I would look to expand that because we need to teach our kids how to educate them on how to live a healthy life.
Thank you. And our last question that's going to all the candidates is, one of the responsibilities of the Borough President is to appoint members to the local community board. How will you review existing members for reappointment? What policies will you implement so these boards are truly reflective of the neighborhoods they are supposed to serve?
Well, obviously, having gone to, working in the precincts, I had the pleasure of going to many of the community boards, different community boards throughout the city. Everybody that serves in the community board should be commended. I know they care about the community. That's going to be my first measuring stick. Do you care about the community? And obviously, I would like for them to be representative of the community that's there. What I would personally do is I would try to get more people that are not involved in our community, the community boards, to get involved. For example, if we're in Community Board 11, I'd like to see, we have Little Yemen, I'd like to see more Yemenis be involved, more people of the community to participate in the community board. Right now, like I said, outside a couple of community boards, which I'm not going to mention right now, I believe that most of the people have their heart in the right place when they serve in our community boards. So I'll still take a look at it as a Bronx Borough President. That's my duty. But that would be pretty much what I would do. Make sure that it's representative of the communities that they're serving.
Thank you. And we have 1 minute left. So I'm going to go to one of the questions that was submitted, if that's okay. And this one is from Joe McManus, and it's, do you support non-citizens to vote in local elections?
As a former non-citizen myself, I do not support that at this time. I believe that and it's not for the reasons, obviously, that many people may think. I would like to see our people become citizens and empower themselves. As a former Navy veteran and as a former person that loves the United States of America, I want to see, although it would be a small win locally, I believe overall it would be detrimental for our people if they don't become citizens. So I don't want to encourage that. So I'm not there yet, but I can be persuaded otherwise if somebody tells me that would be something that it's fruitful for us.
Thank you, Mr. Ravello, for coming here and spending your time with us. I have to say you have one of the best backgrounds, and And thank
We
you.
all have it, by the way. We all have the background, I just decided to use it.
News 12, yeah. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so as we said earlier, we had made space for each of the candidates to get 15 minutes, and we put it out there as a first come, first served basis. This was the one space that no candidate really signed up for. So we are going to pick this back up at 8 o'clock, where we're going to hear from Council Member Vanessa Gibson. And then we are going to speak at 8:15 to Assembly Member Nathalia Fernandez, who will update us on their respective runs for Borough President. Thank you. Okay, everybody, as we said, we're going to be starting again with Council Member Vanessa Gibson in 5 minutes. Before we get to our next two panelists, who are also candidates for Borough President, after speaking to Louisa and a few other people, we just wanted to do some quick acknowledgements of people who are on this call and do a lot of good work for our community. The first thing we wanted to do is actually just acknowledge the passing of two very dedicated leaders for our borough, and that's Deputy Borough President and Assemblymember Aurelia Green. She passed away, I believe, yesterday. And Sylvia Lask, who passed away 2 weeks ago, who was also a member of the Chippewa Club for many years. These were two very dynamic leaders of our borough. They contributed greatly to the borough's prosperity, and they will be sorely missed by everyone who knew them. Beyond that, we just wanted to acknowledge our board members in the Chippewa Club who are on the call. We have Craig Hughes, Noreen Kilkenny, Jeff Lynch, and Lynn Gerbino. So we want to thank them for their contributions to the club and to the greater community. And we also want to, of course, acknowledge our counterparts in the Liberty Democratic Association, and that includes Joe McManus. And then last but certainly not least, we have New York State Committeeman Lou Goldstein, who is also a vice chair of the Bronx Democratic Party. So Lou, thank you for your attendance, and thank you for your suggestions. And without any further ado, we're going to just continue. We're encouraging everyone to continue to submit questions, because we have two Borough President candidates who are going to go back to back. So we're going to really look to maximize this time and ask as many of your questions as humanly possible. So please use the chat function, send in your questions, and we, again, as we said, we're going to work as diligently as we can to get as many of those questions answered. So we want to thank you for taking the time, and we will continue very shortly.
Just a note, if anyone's interested in joining either Chippewa Democratic Club or Liberty Democratic Association, I will put the emails where you can reach out into the chat, and feel free to reach out to those the specific clubs when you have an opportunity.
And I'm also going to be including in the chat the panels for both the New York 1 and the News 12 debates that have been ongoing. So that way you can watch them at your leisure. And that's, again, more of a spirited contest in terms of the format. And we just want to make sure that everybody has all the information they're going to need when they hit the polls on June 22nd. Again, as we've discussed, we're going to be voting for our municipal elections, which includes, at least in the Democratic primary, the mayor. We're going to be voting for public advocate. We're going to be voting for city comptroller. We're going to be voting for borough president, we're going to be voting for a new council member, and we're going to be voting for judges as well. And there are judicial slates, including one that the club is behind. So we're encouraging everyone to get out and vote. Again, it's June 22nd. There's going to be early voting. You can email Chippewa Dems Club at Gmail. We'll send you the early voting information. And again, please keep in mind that this year it's ranked choice voting. So rather than making one choice, you'll rank your top 5 in order. And it'll be a different way of making sure your vote counts. So we just want to include that. And again, encourage everybody that it is so super important that you vote on June 22nd.
Oh, John, did you mention where people can see our mayoral forum if they didn't have a chance to join us for that?
That's great. Actually, people can go on to youtube.com and search in the channels. Thank you, Louisa, for the suggestion. Go to Chippewa Democratic Club and our mayoral forum will appear there. It's about 90 minutes long. We interviewed 5 candidates. Obviously, you know, if you have any suggestions or you have any questions, we encourage you to get in touch with their campaigns now, but we covered a broad array of questions with the candidates, and that included, again, Scott Stringer, Ray McGuire, Sean Donovan, Eric Adams, and Catherine Garcia. So we had 5 of the 8 major candidates there. And it's very similar to tonight in the sense that we had a break in between. Last time we had it filled by Assemblymember Benedetto, who came in and gave us an update on the budget. This time you're having to, I guess, get the second act of me and Louisa here. So we are sorry for that. But that is life. The council member just texted me. She is signing on. So we'll just give her a quick minute and then we'll pick right back up with the questions. Council member, hello, how are
Yes,
you?
I'm on. I'm
Great,
on.
thank you so much. Louisa, can you make the council member a co-host so we can see her too?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Hold on
Thank you
one
so much.
second. All right, council member, you're a co-host.
So you should be able to turn your screen on.
Yes, I can. Yes.
There we
Got
go.
it.
Council member, thank you so much for making the time. We're all grateful to have you here and to hear from you about your candidacy. So how this is going to work, just so you know, is Louisa will be keeping time. We're going to give you a 1-minute intro, and then we have a few questions. You get 2 minutes to respond to each one.
Okay, that sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you.
We have 5 questions, which are standard across the board, every candidate's getting. And then we have questions that other people have submitted, and we'll try to factor them in to maximize your time.
Okay, got it.
All right. So again, thank you so much for coming here. So question 1, council member, is many communities of the 82nd district, such as Co-op City, Country Club, City Island, and Throgs Neck, are considered transit deserts. Our current borough president has been the lead advocate for the Metro North stations coming to the Bronx, including the Morris Park and Co-op City stations. If you are elected borough president, what will be your transportation priorities and what is your plan to achieve them? And then as a sub question, do you support expanding the ferry service and the tri-borough line proposal?
Thank you. Thank you to the Chippewa Democratic Club for your time tonight. I absolutely support the expansion of the Metro North, the 4 new stations that will really serve residents of the East Bronx. I think that's an incredible investment, and it's going to be a game changer for residents that live in the East Bronx. $250 million allocated thanks to the partnership between the borough president and the governor. So I absolutely will continue that and make sure that project moves forward. But I also want to look at expanding existing bus service, making sure that our subway stations are ADA compliant. We have to make sure that every station accommodates people with disabilities as well as our seniors and others. We also have to look at making sure accessibility is addressed through Assessor Ride, because many of the constituents I represent complain about Assessor Ride all the time. I do believe in expanding opportunities. The ferry service I have been supportive of. As you know, it's heavily subsidized by the city. I know we have a site at Ferry Point, there's a site in Soundview, and there's also a possibility of expanding to the Hunts Point community. So I will work with the city, with New York City and the ferry service, and looking at additional opportunities. And what was the last part of the question?
Do you support the tri-borough line?
Oh, the tri-borough line. Okay, I'm still learning about that, but I definitely think that it's something worthy of consideration. Any opportunities that we have as a borough to look at accessibility and opportunity for residents to travel, realizing that many live in transit deserts and they don't have the ability to get around. As this administration moves to less cars and more opportunities and alternative ways to get around, I think we have to look at all opportunities and keep those measures on the table.
Thank you, council member.
Thank you.
Second question is, a good portion of our district is defined by city planning as a lower density growth management area, also known as LDGMA. And this includes special zoning provisions to control parking requirements, yard space, and other protections. Several communities, including Throgs Neck, Country Club, and City Island, have fought for decades to be downzoned. So our questions are: 1, do you agree with LDGMA and downzoning? 2, how do you envision the future of zoning and planning for communities with a mix of 1 and 2 family homes and apartment buildings similar to our area, which I know you know well? And then 3, if a developer seeks a variance or a rezoning and is donated to your campaign, will you refund the donation so there's no appearance of conflict?
Yes, I will start with the last question. Yes, if there appears to be any conflicts or any impropriety, I will absolutely return that contribution. And I want to be clear, as a council member over 8 years, I have a long relationship with many developers and management companies in the West Bronx and the central part of the Bronx. I've done a lot of Article 11s. I've done a lot of renovations of existing buildings and rehab projects, as well as new construction. I've been a part of supporting along with the borough president. I think every neighborhood should look at mixed use. I support our IBZs. I support looking at new construction that creates opportunities for ownership, as well as affordable housing for low income and middle income and working families. I believe in uplifting families with a pathway to the middle class. I believe that we should provide more housing for seniors and veterans and foster youth and youth aging out of the foster care system. LGBTQIA New Yorkers must be accommodated, people with disabilities, and those that have a mental illness. We cannot turn them away. We have to give them access to social services and long-term housing. And I do believe neighborhood plans are very controversial. I get it. But what I like to do is when you look at affordable housing and other opportunities, I want to support community land trusts, CLTs. I think we should invest more in worker cooperatives because these opportunities build economic wealth and power and prosperity in our borough. People can own property. They build value in their neighborhoods. And I also think as we look at increasing housing and ownership opportunities, we have to look at neighborhood plans. We have to look at brand new schools, new parks, playgrounds. We have to look at the existing infrastructure and all the amenities that we believe are necessities to make sure that we're creating neighborhood plans for all of our families, school-age children, young people, seniors, and everyone so that they can shop in their neighborhood, raise their families, and they can live the quality of life that every resident of the Bronx rightfully deserves.
Thank you, council member. As borough president, you would have access to a capital budget to direct funds, and you would also be in charge of the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation for small business. So can you tell us any specific projects or initiatives in our area that you were, or in our region, that you were interested in funding as borough president?
So you all know that I am very adamant about the long-term plan of Rodman's Neck. I talked extensively about that, and it pains me that the residents of City Island have been living in the backdrop of Rodman's Neck for decades. This is a, over $200 million capital plan. And as borough president, I want to use some of my capital to help with the resiliency projects as well as the noise mitigation project of Rodman's Neck. I mean, I wish in an ideal world we could move Rodman's Neck, but that's not possible. And I know some probably would agree, but I do think we have to provide noise mitigation for the residents of City Island that they rightfully deserve. I will expend a lot of my capital into education, as Ruben has done, technology upgrades and capital infrastructure, as well as new housing, parks, playgrounds, the Universal Hip Hop Museum, the Bronx Children's Museum, as well as all of the housing that you're seeing. I will make sure that all of those projects continue and are fully funded. As a council member, I've been able to follow a lot of the land use applications and projects that are coming to the city council. So I've been able to look at the landscape of a lot of borough projects. And I do believe in infrastructure, waterfront, looking at public-private partnerships, looking at investing in our sustainability so that we create green jobs, we create sustainable jobs that build value and build a real middle class in our borough. And as borough president, I will make sure that I work with the community boards, borough board, all of the CBs from 1 through 12 to make sure that I get all of their priorities as I do now and make sure that we fund as many projects as we can. And as a council member, I've been able to join the borough president now on a lot of projects. We do 50-50 splits. So I will do that as borough president. I will work with the city council Bronx delegation, with the chairs, with Chair Riley and Chair Ayala, and make sure that we can partner with each of the council members on projects that are important to their districts as well.
Thank you, council member. The fourth question we have for you, and I know you're familiar with this, is the Bronx continues to suffer with bad health outcomes. And while the current borough president, Ruben Diaz Jr., has made a valiant effort through the Not 62 initiative, we continue to rank towards the bottom in health outcomes. So our question is, what is your plan to address these issues, and how is it different than what's been undertaken before?
Food insecurity is such a major priority. I think we've been reminded over the past year with COVID-19 that so many families struggle for basic necessities like healthy food. Number one, I will expand the Health Bucks program that I've been funding in the council for years. I will look to expand farmers and green markets to be all year round and not just seasonal. I will focus on farming and urban agriculture and work with so many of our CBOs and healthcare providers. I want every school to be a community school, and I want to expand on school-based health centers because I think children should have access to free medical, vision, and dental services in their schools. I want to work with our community-based providers and all of our healthcare partners that have been on the ground over the past year, like Union Health and Urban and Morris Heights and so many others, because they serve our community and provide language access and continuity of care. I think we have to be very ambitious and deliberate in what we do. I want to establish food councils. I want to work with the Hunts Point Terminal and Produce Market to make sure that as much of that food that's produced stays in the borough. I want to work on programs like the Healthy Bodega Initiative, working with all of our bodegas and supermarkets. I want to expand the existing Fresh program that's operated by EDC that offers incentives to supermarkets. I want to expand that program and work with our bids, with the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, with all of our business improvement districts, so we can work with our partners. It doesn't mean that, we can't engage many of our partners on the ground. We have to offer something better. I'm not a big fan of these big, large, stores, because I don't think they're successful, but I will work with the neighborhood store. When you look at a lot of the new housing opportunities, we have the chance to create commercial and retail on the ground level. So we should be looking at more health stores. We should be looking at different opportunities, right? Because we're surrounded by processed poison, by pharmacies, all over our communities, and it's not healthy. Universal healthy food should be achievable to everyone, regardless of zip code, how much you have in your bank account, your status. None of that matters, but everyone should have an opportunity to access universal healthy food.
Thank you, council member. So the last question we have that's standard for everybody is, one of your responsibilities as borough president would be to appoint members to the local community board. So how will you review the existing members for reapportionment? That's question one. And what policies will you implement so that these boards are truly reflective of the communities they're supposed to serve?
Right. So right now, I work closely with the Borough President's office and make recommendations on behalf of my community boards, CBs 3, 4, and 5. Number one, I always look at diversity. I look at geographic diversity. I look at profession. I look at the different ethnic backgrounds that the applicants represent. So I've been able to recommend residents from all walks of life, all different professions, from firefighters to police officers to educators, healthcare providers, teachers, doctors. And we've been able to make that happen because we believe that community boards should always be reflective of the community it serves. And now with term limits, that there will be a turnover of community board members every few years. So as borough president, I will work with stakeholders. I will work with my advisory boards. We have the African Advisory Board, as well as additional ones that we're looking to create with the Bangladeshi community, with the Garifuna community. We want to make sure that we have advisory boards that reflect the entire borough. I think that's important for people to feel that they have a seat at the table and that the borough president understands what's happening in their particular community, and making sure that the applicants that we select are diverse. They reflect different professions. They are going to be dedicated and hardworking and really represent the best interests of that particular community board.
Thank you, council member. And then this is the individually submitted questions. And this is a question about climate change and the environment.
Okay.
And it's that many of the communities in our district are coastal communities. I know you know that. In the event of a Superstorm Sandy-like event, they will be extraordinarily vulnerable to storm surge. Furthermore, the existential threat of climate change leaves these neighborhoods significantly vulnerable to rising sea levels. So as borough president, how will you implement resiliency measures in the East Bronx?
Great question. I first will work with the mayor's office of sustainability. I will work with them on developing some of the proposals that are coming out of our borough from the community board and other stakeholders and environmentalists. As a council member, I've supported a number of projects right now in Southern Brooklyn after Hurricane Sandy, as well as the East Side Resiliency Project that you may be familiar with on the east side of Manhattan. And so we've been talking, council members have been asking about other projects that reflect our coastal issues. I live near the Harlem River, and so I'm not new to coastal issues. When we had, the last superstorm, we were wiped out in terms of power like many others, but I realized the East Bronx has a lot of major challenges. So I want to build in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of storm protection and resiliency projects. They're very expensive, but we do have to work with the Mayor's Office of Sustainability. We have to work with DEP. We have to look at what we can do to protect the water line, but we also have to look at what we can do to protect homeowners and property owners that live in that area. I think when you look at the Bronx, whenever there's a storm, you always know there are parts of the East Bronx that will lose power, and we have to deal with both short-term issues and long-term problems to address the long-term sustainability so that we can provide more opportunities for property owners and homeowners that live in the East Bronx so they don't have to face this every time there's a major storm.
Thank you, council member. And then this is just a last question that was submitted to us. It's, do you support non-citizens voting in local elections?
Yes, I do. It has been a piece of legislation that has been introduced by one of my colleagues and it's not passed. I've been asked about this several times and I have not yet added my name. I think I added my name this week. I have to double check, but I do support that. And I think it's important to our continuously diverse, growing immigrant community to recognize that in local municipal elections, they should have the opportunity to vote.
Thank you, council member, for your answering of all these questions. And we appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for your time tonight. Many blessings and please stay safe. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Louisa. Thanks everyone.
Have a great
God
night,
bless.
council member.
You too.
All right. And I think, Louisa, I think you need to make the assembly member co-host.
Assembly member, I made you a co-host.
A year into Zooms and I still don't know what that means.
Don't worry, we were having a little bit of technical difficulties, so you're not alone. Assembly member, I'm going to be asking you the questions tonight. Originally, our president, Edward Coster, was going to read you the questions. However, he was also having technical difficulties, so that's why he's not on here tonight. But right now, we're going to give you a minute to introduce yourself, and then we'll ask you 5 questions. We've been asking all the candidates. You probably heard us ask, John asked the council member, and then we'll ask if time allows 1 or 2 that we received from the audience. So go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Luis, and to John and to everyone watching here tonight. Always a pleasure to speak to more people, more voters, and really just share my platform. But many of you, I hope you know me, should know me. I'm your friendly neighbor to the west in the 80th Assembly District, representing Pelham Parkway, Morris Park, Allerton, Pelham Gardens, Mosholu Parkway, Norwood. I've been serving the Assembly for a few years now. Special election was 2018, but I've been working in government all my adult life. And it has really been the honor of my life to serve in this capacity, in every capacity, hearing my neighbors and delivering results in any which way possible, whether it is through information or actual tangible things or repairing a pothole like we love to do. But I'm running for borough president because this is a really pivotal time for the borough. And I love this borough, if it's not obvious enough. This is the borough that has given my family a chance at the American dream. I'm the proud daughter of immigrants. My father came from Cuba. My mother came from Colombia, right here to the 80th Assembly District. And they've been able to live a lovely life, but also one that has allowed me to give back in many ways. And our upbringing was always surrounded by hard work, supporting your family, supporting your friends, supporting your community. So right now, my community needs support. My borough needs real support and a true advocate that will fight for the needs of every community. I'm the only candidate that has served borough-wide. I was the governor's Bronx representative for all of 2017, and I've been able to work with every community, see every community, and really understand the needs of the Bronx. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Oh.
No worries, no worries.
Okay, Assembly member, we'll go into the questions right now. So the first one that again is set for all candidates is many communities of the 82nd Assembly District, such as Co-op City, Country Club, City Island, and Throgs Neck are considered transit deserts. Our current borough president has been the lead advocate for the Metro North stations coming to the Bronx, including in Morris Park and Co-op City. If you are elected borough president, what will be your transportation priorities, and what is your plan to achieve them? Do you support expanding ferry service and the Tri-Borough Line proposals?
Yes, I do. I'm very excited for the Metro Northeast Access Plan. As soon as I entered the Assembly, I've been very supportive in doing my due diligence to make sure that that plan does not go off the tracks. But Actually, very recently, knowing that COVID-19 has, delayed a lot of work to be done, this plan is still on schedule, and we're excited to see it happen because this would create so much more opportunity, not just for commuters, but for Bronxites to get out north and south of this city for job opportunities. At the same time, it will create more transportation options. And I totally agree that the Northeast Bronx is a complete transportation desert, something that I've focused on, or at least I know I've said it many times. And while we did have the Bronx redesign, the bus redesign plan last year, there's still work that I think can be done. Since my time in the governor's office, I know that the select bus service and the express bus service from Co-op City has always been an issue, and it still hasn't been fixed in that last redesign. So I'm committed to looking at the work again, making sure that we can create real access to our communities, to the public transportation options. And I'm very excited about the e-scooter program because that too will be an option for many of our deserted areas to get to our main lines of mass transportation. So I am committed to making sure that we have access here, that we can get around here safely and efficiently and in a friendly way.
Thank you. Our next question, it's a long one. There's going to be 3 questions. If you need me to repeat, just ask. A good portion of our region is defined by city planning as a lower density growth management areas, LDGMA, which includes special zoning provisions to control parking requirements, yard space, and other protections. Several communities, including Throgs Neck, Country Club, and City Island, have fought for decades to be downzoned. 1, do you agree or disagree with LDGMA downzoning? 2, how do you envision the future of zoning and planning for communities with a mix of 1 to 2 family homes in apartment buildings in this region of the Bronx? And 3, if a developer seeks a variance or rezoning and has donated to your campaign, will you refund the donation so there is no appearance of a conflict?
The last question, but there was a glitch, so I didn't hear it.
Oh, sorry. So the last one, sure. If the last one is, if a developer seeks a variance or rezoning and has donated to your campaign, will you refund the donation so there is no appearance of a conflict?
Yeah, if the money is still in the account, then I will refund it, but very safe and secure to say that no donation is a sway in any of my decisions or votes thus far and in the future. So money doesn't talk that far. But I do support a downzoning because personally, I like the aesthetics of the Country Club area, and I don't think that tall buildings can necessarily be sustainable there. But with any upzoning, rezoning, my biggest focus, and if legislation has to be introduced, I'm committed to doing so, but we really need to do community impact studies with any discussion of an upzone, D-zone, Euler process, because these additions to our communities leave lasting impacts, obviously, but we need to know beforehand what they're going to be. So I'm committed to making sure that we do a thorough analysis, looking at the racial equity, what it can do for current market rates of other properties and its value. And also if we can sustain an investment in addition like that. You know, I've been a big advocate of, are we able to take in all this new development without looking at the amenities around? Being a food desert is something too that's happening all over the borough. Quick access and direct access, whether through public transportation to medical services, and general city services. You know, these are conversations we need to have when we talk about the growth.
Oh, Assembly Member, we're losing you a little bit. Sorry, it cut out at the end.
What did you hear?
I think we cut out about 15 seconds. So you're talking about amenities and that in that vein.
We need to make sure our communities can support the additions that are proposed. So if we're ever talking about affordable housing, upzoning for bigger buildings, can the current community as is sustain the growth and really the people that are to come? Do we have enough schools? I personally don't think we do. Every school that I've seen in the borough, spoken to teachers, principals, the schools are overcrowded. So that needs to be a first request, at least in my opinion, making sure that we have schools that will be enough for the growing community. Looking at the food deserts that still linger around here, we need to make sure that we're bringing in partners that are ready to be that source to them. And even looking at partners like Whole Foods, we need healthier options in the borough. And, you know, we have some great little original businesses right there on White Plains Road and Pelham Parkway. Oh,
Sorry.
Thank you, Assembly Member. The next question is, as Borough President, you will have access to a capital budget to direct funds and the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation to assist small businesses. Can you tell us any specific projects or initiatives in our region you are interested in funding?
Well, one of my first things I want to do as Borough President is to bring in all my principals, going by school district to school district and seeing what they need help in. I'm committed to making sure that our schools are fully resourced, well-equipped, with the needed resources and amenities for our children to learn properly and have the support to learn properly. So I know that many schools have put in funding requests to the Borough President, to council members, and I want to see if I can, with my capital funding, help fund those resources, whether it is new technology, air conditionings, retrofitting a lot of these old buildings, and making sure that our students have a safe and good place to learn.
Great, thank you. The next one is, the Bronx continues to suffer with bad health outcomes, and while the current Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr., has made a valiant effort through the Not 62 campaign, we continue to rank at the bottom of health outcomes. What is your plan to address these issues, and how is it different from what has been undertaken before?
Well, the health of the borough can be measured in different ways. Individual health, what are we doing to help Bronxites stay healthy? Getting proper access to healthy food is a key component. You know, a lot of neighborhoods, I mentioned food deserts, rely on the local bodega sometimes. Maybe a farmer's market that pops up. We should have monthly or, you know, seasonal farmers markets coming up into underserved neighborhoods, expanding programs like Health Bucks, making sure that businesses do take EBTs, that farmers market can take EBT cards to allow those that may be less fortunate to get real access to healthier food options. But even in many different ways too, we can encourage healthier eating, healthier living in our schools at an early age. I've done this with a few schools in my district. And as much as I wanted to pick it up sometimes, you know, schedule is crazy for everyone, but to have healthy food campaigns, like make it an effort from the Borough President's office to speak to the kids and talk about healthy eating, make it like a contest. You know, we're going to eat 10 apples this week, whichever class eats the 10 apples, you get an incentive, something like that. But we have to do a lot more with the space that we have here. I love that we are the biggest borough in parks, that we have all this space. We should be doing a lot more community events all over the place. Zumba classes in our parks, senior trips, hiking trips. A lot of physical activity can be promoted through the Borough President's office. And I encourage many to do so. Participating in the Tour of the Bronx, maybe a marathon through the Bronx. I know we have a few, but this could be things that we promote more just to get people moving, get people active, but also looking at, again, other stats that deem us the unhealthiest borough. Apparently, the fact that we are the borough with the most single parent households, typically mothers, that does put us in a category that we are unhealthy. So I want to look at that more and make sure that we are empowering single parents, whoever they may be, mother, father, with childcare options, with better support to take care of their children. So we're not deemed unhealthy in that way. But there's a lot to be done in your centers and all community spaces, whether in public event or not, to encourage healthier eating, give that an opportunity to get healthier foods, and push more for activity, more activity.
Time.
Thank you. And now we're going to do the last question that was for all the candidates. And that is, one of the responsibilities of the Borough President is to appoint members to the local community board. How will you review existing members for reappointment? And what policies will you implement so these boards are truly reflective of the neighborhoods they are supposed to serve?
Well, for those looking at reappointments, I will look at attendance records because unfortunately in my time as the governor's rep going from each community attendance, we want to make sure that we have members from our communities that are ready to commit and give that time and effort. At the same time, we need to have community boards be truly reflective of the diverse communities that we live in. So I'll be looking at many factors: occupation, age, demographic, ethnicity. I think, yeah, those are just the basic ones, but really giving a wide scope of experiences, perspectives, and knowledge to the community board. So really every voice, every community group is seen and represented.
Thank you. And I think we have, if you're okay with this, Assembly Member, time for one more question.
Yes.
Call from Manuel Cepeda.
Sorry, I'm at my own office. I can't do that.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So the question that we're about to ask is actually from a Liberty Democratic Association member, Barry Stoltz. And it's, I'm concerned about the gentrification of our neighborhoods. The borough president will have a lot to do with future developments. How will you, as borough president, protect small businesses and residents from gentrification?
I'm sorry for the ringing again. This is not my office and I don't think I can hang up on it. But as I mentioned before, I am determined to making sure that community impact studies are done when we look at the development to come and any conversation regarding upzoning, rezoning. It's crucial that we look at what will be the effect or aftermath of this new addition to the community. We don't want people displaced. And these are conversations that we can have with the developers when setting their rents, when looking at the market value of what they're trying to build. We don't want this addition to cause the building that's been here for 30 years to all of a sudden shoot up in rent because value has changed in the neighborhood. So the racial makeup, community impact of this addition is certainly going to determine what will really help a community and what might hurt it. So I'm committed to making that part of the process, again, with legislation if needed, so we can protect communities and not push people out.
Thank you, Assembly Member. I'm actually going to ask you one more question. And it's, will you commit, and this is from Lou Goldstein, will you commit to continue the LGBTQI events started by Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., Pride, that's the Pride celebrations and raising Pride flag by Borough Hall?
Oh, of course, that's a no-brainer. I loved all the events that our great Borough President has done, and I look forward to doing more. If not multiple events in awareness months, but certainly celebrating every demographic, every ethnicity, every great community here in this borough, because that is what makes us great. So that's a no-brainer. I look forward to celebrating continually the LGBTQ community.
Thank you, Assembly Member, for joining us tonight, for making the time, and also staying and answering the question when I said one more and actually made it two. So I appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Thank you, Assembly Member. We appreciate you.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Again, thank you for the time. Thank you for the participants for listening. And please reach out, keep in touch with the campaign. I am reachable on social media in every which way. Shoot a DM there or find me on the street because I'll be out there.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
And we want to thank everybody who came on to the call tonight. This has been great. And, we've really had a lot of, great input and from all of our different participants. If you have any questions or you need to get in touch with the club, you can go to chippewademsclub@gmail.com. And even if it's a message for the Liberty Democratic Association, we'll forward it over. And we just want to thank you guys for all tuning in. And we saw we got a big uptick towards the latter part of this presentation. Again, June 22nd is the Democratic primary. It's so super important you get out to vote. Keep in mind that you can always get an absentee ballot by going online. You can email us if you need help with that. There are early voting options. And again, this is a very consequential election for our communities, for our borough, for our city, And we want to make sure that we have excellent participation from all the communities of our district and citywide. So from Westchester Square, Zariga, to Co-op City, to Throgs Neck, we encourage everybody to get out and vote, and everywhere in between. Thank you all and have a nice night.